All right. I already told you my guest was going to be Yolanda Spearman, authentic, courageous, and always smiling. Yolanda Spearman's vibe is 100% black girl magic. Most people are too shy to come out and say it, but Yolanda is all about being real. She calls things as she sees them, and she makes you feel good while doing it. Yolanda brings that same energy to everything she does. This female African-American voiceover talent from Detroit, Michigan has a natural rasp and a powerfully earthy sound that is unapologetically black and unmistakably charming. She's that deeply thoughtful friend who listens to you and then draws you into her conversation. When Yolanda's not behind the mic nailing a commercial voiceover, she is working her magic in her other business as a corporate trainer and speaker, which showcases her innate ability to capture people's attention. Her voice work is done in her fully equipped home studio, where she has voiced hundreds of broadcast and non-broadcast projects. Yolanda believes in lifelong learning and continues to train with respected experts in the voiceover industry to ensure a consistent performance every time. She's written a book that we're going to be talking about today called Relentless Execution, and has an accomplished corporate career working at renowned companies like Harley-Davidson and Ford Motor Company. Clients say she is, quote, easy to work with, unquote, flexible, quote, unquote, and fun, quote, unquote. The authenticity in her voice warms your soul and brings a smile to your face. Join the other well-known names who have trusted her voice to breathe new life into her projects like BET, Johnson & Johnson, Wayfair, Liberty Mutual, Sonos, AT&T, all right now, Amazon, Scotiabank, Salesforce, and many more. Yolanda is also a proud wife and mother of two. She leads an inspired life that is pretty darn magical. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Reading Circle microphones, none other than the authentic, courageous, and always smiling Yolanda Spearman. Yolanda, good morning.
Ooh, good morning. Yay, that was so cool. You made me feel, I was like, oh, did I do all that?
I know that's right. And one of the reasons, and many times my guests will say, don't read the whole bio. No. And I know I like to read the whole Bible because I want somebody in the listening audience to be inspired and motivated and in their mind think, well, you know what? If that can happen for Yolanda, that can happen for me. So let me get up off my duff and do what I need to do to make some things happen for me, just like things happen for Yolanda. So that's why I always like to read the entire bio.
And that you did. You read it all very well.
You know what? I might want to get into voiceover one day, so I might need to stay connected with you to see how do I get into that. But that's why I try to put emphasis on diction, and I'm a wordsmith, so I hang on every word. So I love the way you have that written there. So I had a lot of fun reading it. So welcome. Listening audience, many of you, I know you've heard me mention Pam Perry many times, and Pam always sends me some of the best guests. There are two publicists that I work with that have carte blanche, and that is Pam Perry and Nikki Wood. Those two, whoever they send me, it's just a matter of picking a date. And that's what we did here with Yolanda. We picked today, August the 7th, and we are here. I can't believe how quickly the summer is shooting on by, but in any event, we are here. So Yolanda, we chatted a little bit prior to coming on air, and I said it's very free flowing. It's going to be very flow, but there is a standard question that I kind of ask in terms of kind of like, where did it all begin? Was this a passion for you? Was this something that you did in your childhood or your early years or in high school or college, whatever? Kind of like, because I'm really, like I said, I'm serious about the voiceover thing. You never know when I might want to, add that to my plate as well. How did this all start?
I so love this question. Everybody always asks me this, and I absolutely think this is my favorite question. And it's my favorite question because I didn't start when I first was introduced to it. So I was introduced to this about 25 years ago when I was working part-time at the Omni International Hotel in downtown Detroit. And I was working at the front desk, and I met a lady. Her name is Mildred Gaddis. She is like the queen of talk radio, black talk radio here in Detroit, in the Detroit area. And she was walking past the front desk doing her passion as usual. And she tapped on the front desk and she said, "Hey, sweetheart, come in." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "I want to tell you something. Have you ever looked into voiceover?" And I was like, "No, ma'am, I don't even know what that is." She said, "I want you to go do research, figure out what it is. That is for you." And I was just like, "Oh, okay." So this person just hears my voice. She interacts with me. She feels this thing that fell on her. And she told me that was 25 years ago. Well, I did a little bit of research, took a little class here and there. Nothing much came of it, right? So here we go. But I did make a reel. That's an important point to note. I made a demo reel. So I found out about it. I took a class. I made a demo reel, which is just a sample of my voice actually reading some commercials. And so I did commercial back then, Sprite. It was like, "Obey your thirst." Sprite. So I did something like that, and I did some other stuff. And I did it in a reel, shopped it. This is back in the day when we had CDs, and you had to go take them to the studios.
Right.
And you had to mail them out. Yeah, so this is back then. And I got a couple calls, not many. I got a couple, and you had to go into the studio, read for the commercial, stand in line, read your part for the line. They had the script up. And I didn't love it at that time. So this is key. I didn't love it at that time. So I put it down, dust collected on my CDs. My husband, 15 years later, finds that CD, blows it off, says, "What's on this?" Puts it in his car. He's driving down in his truck, and he was like, that's you. And I was like, yeah, I did this back in the day. He was like, we need to dust this off. You need to be doing this. This is you. And I was like, yeah, no. But so I get caught up in life and in corporate America because I had this dream of being this businesswoman with this briefcase, and I got to be all that in a bag of chips. And I was the boss. I was on my hamster wheel and joyfully jogging in that circle. I was running fast. You know how you see the hamsters and they be going faster and faster.
That's
and
right.
faster, like they're going to get somewhere. I wasn't getting anywhere quick. So finally one day I figured out I was not really happy with running in that hamster wheel. I really kind of felt like I had to go somewhere and do something else extra. So my husband says, "Yolanda, I keep coming back to you. Try your voiceover." So I was like, okay. Put up a profile on voice123.com because they have a free one. Put up a profile. Remember, I had that old demo. So got that old demo, converted it to an MP3, put it up. And lo and behold, someone called. And I was just like, oh, what do I do now? Because I didn't have a studio. I had absolutely So I was just like, okay, I'm going to record. At the time, I was taking piano lessons. So I went back to the school, and I was like, hey, does anybody in here have a microphone? I just got a job for a commercial, and I need to record it. And the guy was in there. He said, yes, I do. I can help you out. So he helped me. And I did a commercial in a corner of in a music school, in a corner with, like, some foam around me so you couldn't hear the other students playing the piano. And that was my very first voiceover, and it was for a company over in Ontario, Canada. And I was just like, wow. And here's the cool part. The job took me less than an hour, and I got paid like $400.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, does that site still exist today, the one that you cited? What was it, Voice? What was that one you said you
Voice? I went to voice123.com.
Is that still there today?
Yes, it's there. You can put up a free profile. They have free. I pay now, of course.
Right.
But you can put up a free profile with scratch, meaning that you put up a reel of your voice. So you do radio all the time.
Right.
So you can legitimately put up like a snippet of your voice and say, hey, I'm an announcer with that radio voice that you're looking for. And here's a little demo of me. Put it up there, and people will search. And if they say, I'm looking for a radio voice who has that announcer sound to it, they'll click on those kind of keywords.
Right.
And if you pop up, they'll invite you to read.
Well, I tell you what, I told you earlier, that might be something I want to pursue. And now that you've kind of given me a resource there, because I'd never heard of that. And so maybe later on today or sometime over the next week or so, I'll take a look at that and see maybe I'll get some stuff on their profile as well. So that's interesting. So the lady came into the hotel and just, had she heard you speaking, or what was it about you that she felt would be great in voiceover?
So she and I would interact at the front desk, and, I just talked to people. And you know what she told me? It was just the sound and the energy and the passion behind my words. And she was like, it's something about the way you say things and the way you put things together. You would do great at voiceover. Oh, and I was always reading. So every time people would come, you know how you catch the people at the front desk and they're looking at the book and they're like, "Oh shoot, I gotta have the book."
Right.
I was always hiding my books because back then I can't remember what was out. I think I was reading The Hobbit or some big series that was really a big gigantic book, and I was engrossed. So I love to read, and I was just like passionately reading, and I would just be like in my own world. And then she was like, "Yeah, you got a voice, you love to read. That plus that equal good voiceover. possible good voiceover."
Well, I mean, that's a fascinating story, and my listening audience would be bored for me to tell my story of how I got into radio again, because I share it so often. But I got into radio kind of sort of the same way, and it's been 20 years ago. And it's interesting now you say in terms of, which I believe is two things. One, this show was created to encourage listeners to read more. That was the whole impetus of the show 20 years ago from the station manager. He wanted somebody to host a show about reading. And I'm in education, so he thought I would be perfect for it. That's the long and short of it. But it's interesting to hear you say that you were reading while you were at the front desk and that you love to read, because the reading, the communications, and now the writing of the book, they're all connected.
I never looked at it from that perspective, but I see that. All my passions, leading from my place of passion, that's always my theme, leading from your place of passion, because I do believe that people can connect the dots.
Right.
Sometimes people on the outside see those connections easier and clearer than we do, right? I didn't even see that until you just said that.
and they are, because usually, not all cases, and like I said, 20 years of doing this, it's not always, but in most cases, my authors that have been on the show were avid readers as children or teens or what have you. That's why I generally kind of ask the question, where did everything start in terms of doing this? Was it something that came along later in life or something that was early in life? And you explained your story, and it makes perfect sense. As a matter of fact, it's encouraging to hear that you could be doing one thing and somebody recognized something else in you, and then you ultimately wind up doing that.
You know what I think was also key? She acted on it. Because how often do we see things in people and we go, you know what, she would be so good at this, but we just keep it to ourselves.
Correct.
It's something that to me that was really monumental and that I have taken with me. She took a moment to speak to a person that she did not know and speak into their life. And this is where I am today. She doesn't even know who I am. She probably doesn't even remember that girl she randomly met. And she threw out that pearl of wisdom. She planted a seed. So one man plants, another man waters, but who? God gives the increase.
Absolutely.
And he never even knew it, right?
Absolutely. And God bless her, and then God bless you for being able to actually fulfill, as you said, the seed being planted, actually growing. So I'm looking at all these different companies, and I heard you talking about you did a commercial. So there's a possibility that I've either been listening to radio or streaming or watching television, and I've heard your voice.
Yes, definitely. I am currently on the national campaign for Wayfair. So if you hear somebody say, "There's no place like it," that's me. They do I'm on, I think, 6 ads for them right now on TV. I'm also the voice for the American Cancer Association and their big push and their drive for funds for breast cancer awareness. So they're telling you to get out there and walk. Come on, y'all, let's go. I am. So those are 2 current campaigns. And the interesting part about voiceover is you sign a lot of confidentiality agreements.
Right.
So you can't tell some of the stuff that you do. I am the voice for you're going to laugh at this one. I'm the voice for a sausage.
Hey, it is what it is. Folks need to know about sausage too. There are sausage lovers out there now.
But I really enjoyed the voiceover, and it was the sausage was Manda. I think it was Manda, and it was like, if you want your sausage from the family place, and it's in Louisiana, and I did like a little twang. If you want your sausage, you gotta get the flavor of Manda sausages. It was so much fun doing that spot. But,
so
yeah, I'm the voice.
And I told you the conversation is free flowing. So my next question usually comes up from your response. So whenever you're recording, are you recording regionally, locally, globally, or all of the above?
All of the above. I even record all over the world as well. So right now, I have a job that I'm working on right now, and it's for a restaurant. And I was just in here trying to figure out. He wanted me to change the address on it. I already did the spot, and he is in. I think he's in New York.
So because I haven't been on Clubhouse now in almost 2 months, but on Clubhouse I have a lot of voiceover folks. How challenging, easy, I'm trying to look for the word in terms of breaking into that field. I know you have to do the demo reel, and now you just gave me another resource, but how, what is kind of like, what does it take to break into that?
So really, there's a couple things. First, you got to have some personality and some chutzpah.
Right.
You got to have some. When you read, you can't just. You know how I said, man, I can't believe you read my whole bio, but you didn't just read it. You read it with energy. You put inflections on words, and you made things pop out. Like, and she is black girl magic. You made that. So that's what they want. Because remember, this is a vision. So when people write these things down, it's their vision. They're looking for a person to bring life to that vision. So when you are the voiceover talent, what you're doing is making their vision on paper have a personality. So you're bringing that person, and they'll say what they see. So sometimes I'll talk to the writers, who I get a chance to work with the writers, and they'll say, I saw somebody kind of snarky, and she was real dry and deadpan. And then she got that little snark in her, and then all of a sudden she changed from that to, warm and loving. So you have to be able to, and they will use some adjectives. Okay, you're gonna need a dictionary because they'll be like, can you use onomatopoeia? You'll be like, what?
That's bang, bam, boom. Yes.
Yes. You'll be like, oh, okay. You wanted me to make some noises, and they'll go, yes. And then sometimes they'll want you to grunt, or they'll make you. I had one where I had to say pizza 7 different ways.
Okay.
Pizza. And I was just like, okay. She was like, can you give me pizza about 6 or 7 different ways? I was like, yes, I can. You get up and you start going, pizza. You just get into a space. So you got to have that, right?
Right.
That's like I always tell people whenever they're talking to me and they're like, Yolanda, I really think this is for me. I said, okay, so give me pizza 7 ways. I was in a spot with, Spotify. So I actually have a few episodes that I've done for a Spotify show called Game On. And so I'm the host for the show. And in the middle of the show, they were like, oh, we love this, but can you just riff? And I was like, riff what? And they were like, and I was like, okay. And they're like, no. We want you to say things that you would say in your culture for he looks good. I said, oh, you want me to call him a snack? Yeah, we like that. He a snack. It was like, and I was like, how many you want? They were like, just keep going. And so I'm in the studio, and I'm looking at the audio engineer, and I'm like, I need you to throw me some words, because I'm not with the millennials. I don't know all the latest. So they, you have to be very comfortable.
Right.
Being seen, because sometimes they will see you. A lot of times they do what they call directed sessions. So they see me. So I'm on video, and they get to see me. I cover up the screen so I don't see them.
Okay.
But they get to see me. So that means your creative process is on camera.
Correct.
So I take deep breaths. I breathe in between. Sometimes I do calming breaths if I'm nervous. I did a spot for Macy's Flower Day, and I was nervous because I had the New York Times was on and there was like 8 people in the room looking at me, and I felt nervous. So I was like, okay, I got to cover them up, and I need to do some breaths. And they are sitting right there watching you breathe.
Oh, absolutely. Now, see, I'm a firm believer, and there is no such thing as a wasted experience. So now you were working in the hotel. You ultimately did your corporate dream of, having the briefcase and being involved, but then you started doing the voiceover. So how much did those jobs facilitate your being successful or doing the voiceover job well?
So I will tell you this. I still do work for Harley Davidson as a senior finance and insurance consultant, right? So that's my vanilla. So this one adds to my chocolate, strawberry, and orange sickle flavor. So I get a chance to be a storyteller, and it makes me a better storyteller in my day job. I teach people how to sell. I teach people how to sell stuff, how to grow their business, and how to maximize their income in their business. That's what I do in my day work. Well, this allows me to tap into a creative space. So I call myself a voiceover artist. And the reason I say artist is because it allows me to tap into that other side of my brain.
Absolutely.
Where I'm able to kind of get into that free flow. And my husband, I have 2 children, and they're smaller. They're 8 and 9. And my husband has literally come to the basement and said, honey, it's about to be dark. You going to come upstairs today? And I was like, oh, it's the weekend. I got to do stuff with the family. I'm so sorry. I was in here. I was having so much fun reading this and reading that and reading this. That, to me, allows me to, what I call in my book, Relentless Execution, I talk about this, and that's entering into the state of flow.
Absolutely.
Where time, it just doesn't matter. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, because that's all right. Like, you're a type of person that I call a Renaissance woman. I consider myself a Renaissance man. That means, you can do multiple things, or like you said, access both parts of the brain. Now, for those who, you focus on just one thing for all of your days, I am not mad at you. But for me, I'm one like what Yolanda's describing, where I do many things and they all kind of feed into a passion. So when I'm not here on radio, as I said, I'm an educator. I'm the principal of a school. So I have the opportunity to, like you say, that's my day job. And now the radio is the other part of me. And I love all of it. I do the podcasting, I do the radio, I do the blogs, as well as I said, doing my day job as an educator. But it all connects for me. And I'm hearing that same thing for you. And you said also about the flow. Absolutely. For me, the radio show and things such as the podcast, whatever, that's my flow point. That's my happy place, if you will. And so I know exactly what you're talking about, where time will go by and you don't even realize that much time has gone by.
Yes, definitely. I absolutely. I was reading a script this morning, so I was actually looking. I was like, hey, I warm up my voice in the morning, and I usually warm it up. I do several exercises. I do tongue twisters, and I do stretching, and I hum, and I sing. I just do some light humming. But I like to warm up by reading a script that's kind of I don't want to say it's a throwaway, but it's one that I'm like, I don't mind if I don't get this job.
Right.
I just want to practice. But I get up and I look for some creative stuff. And this morning I was reading one. I just got to tell y'all, I'm not going to read it, but it's for luxury space travel. And I was just like, oh, my gosh, this is so much fun. So I did that before. I did that whole audition before I took this call this morning. And I was just up and I was like, you will rise above the clouds. And it is so, for me, when you find your passion,
right?
I mean, there is no place like it. It is so much fun to me. I get to look at these words on a page and say, how can I say you will rise floating above the clouds until all you feel is wonder? How will I say that? This is real. This right here is not made up. This is an actual audition I'm looking at right now. And I was like, Then they go kind of professional, a serene 6-hour journey, take off to landing, carried by decades of blah, blah, blah. And I won't get into the whole thing. But then, so I'm like, okay, so they go, then they go professional. Then they come back to welcome aboard. I love that.
That's right. And see, for me, if you're going, and I open the show every morning on Saturday morning, whenever the show is on, I open reading from 2 books. One that has been the mainstay over the years has been Until Today, Daily Devotions for Spiritual Growth and Peace of Mind by Iyanla Vanzant. And the second book, I switch off every now and again. Matter of fact, the other one that I'm using now was recommended to me by Pam Perry. And that was Reverend Run's Words of Wisdom. And so when I'm reading from that, just as you heard me read your bio, is the same way I read the devotions. Because as you said, in terms of making things come alive, I also teach public speaking at the college level. And one of the things I try to help the students understand is no one wants to hear monotone. No one wants to hear, hi, how are you today? What are you doing? But once you begin to put some feeling into it, that's when people begin to connect. So whenever you're like, if you're listening on the radio or either watching TV and you hear an ad that comes up with your voice behind it, how do you respond? What is it like for you?
So, the first time, I believe it or not, I've done so many, but I rarely hear them. So my brother was in the car with his family, and I did a spot for St. Joseph Hospital, which is the Trinity Hospital system, and they're across about, I think, three or four states. And they played it, and it was all about getting the vaccination from COVID. And I was just like, I hope I get to hear this. And it was on a hip-hop radio station. It played on a hip-hop radio station because it was targeted to African Americans. And my brother and his wife were driving down the street. I get this panic phone call. You're on the radio! And I'm like, I am? Oh, my goodness. Can I hear myself? And they're like recording this so I can hear myself as they are listening to the commercial. Now, locally, I'm on several, so I've heard it more than once. The coolest thing was hearing it on TV. I got a call from California and from Connecticut. Yolanda, are you, by chance, on Wayfair? And I'm like, what do you mean? I was watching FX and a commercial came up, and I promise you, I thought you were in my living room. And I was like, that was me!
Do you ever, because you just said you really don't hear them that often, but do you ever hear one and say, I didn't realize it was that good or that bad, or I don't even remember doing that, but you might hear something that a listener may not hear because you knew that you did it. I know for me as a musician, there are times whenever I'll hear, my music, I was like, wow, I don't even remember playing that. It was kind of like God working through me. Do you ever run into that kind of situation where like you hear the voiceover come up and you're like, wow, was that me?
Well, I do, because I've done a couple video games, and I'm on a board game. And on the board game, I play a character, and I was like, and it has an accent. It speaks in a, I think it was Gaelish accent. Trust me, I don't even remember what that is or how that sounds, but I did it for that character. And I was just like, that's me. And I'm like talking like totally not like I sound right now. People would listen to me like right now, and they'll say, she does not sound like that. And I was like, I had to go back and look just to make sure that was really me myself. I had to look it up. I said, I think I played her. And I went and looked it up, and I was like, yeah, that's me. Oh, my goodness, that's me. I did that. And so I think I would say to anyone, when you find your passion, what you really, really love, it will pull things out of you. And I do have a voiceover coach. I have an actual coach who works with me. And sometimes I will get scripts that will push me in a certain genre. And that particular script, he was like, I can't help you because that's not my genre. I don't work in that particular area of voiceover. So there's a whole bunch of categories in voiceover. I primarily focus on commercial and narration. So I do commercial narration, but sometimes I get characters. And my coach is a commercial narration and promo coach. He only coaches in those categories. So in voiceover, it's very different. It's very specific. It's very, sniper? It's very, very clear. It is not a gunshot approach. You just don't just say, okay. It's very, very targeted. So I only do a few characters. I do play a character on the Imagine Neighborhood for Children, and I play a consistent character, and her name is Alakazam Taisha Morganis, and I am a wizard lady. and my kids know her. So they're like, Mama, you're doing Alakazam, and I'm like, sorry, I just fell into her voice today. And it's just, for me, it's such a wonderful opportunity to be able to tap into creativity and get paid for it, right?
Oh, absolutely. And something you said, I meant to ask this question a little bit earlier whenever you were talking about the sausage. How much I know the answer to this question, but because you kind of said it in terms of voiceover really is acting, because you said you had to give a Louisiana accent. Mm-hmm. So, talk a little bit about what is it like, and you just gave the character, the one that was in the different genre, the different language. How is that for you when you get a script and they say, we want you to do this, we want you to have a country accent? What do you do?
Well, I'm on a show from Netflix, and it is on Netflix. I think it's called Netflix YouTube. It's called Legacies and Recipes, and I play two of the voices on there. I play the grandmother and the mother, and my daughter plays the little girl on this particular show, and it's out there now. It's called Legacies and Recipes. It's Netflix. It's Netflix YouTube, and there's a couple series. So what happens is you tap into things that have happened in your past. So my grandmother is who I tap into all the time when they ask me to play an old lady. I play an old lady on a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm an old lady on a lot of commercials. So people will be shocked to know that it's me, but it's me being out there telling you, baby, you gotta get yourself in order. And that's so I tap into my grandma, because she would be like, Yandy, I don't know why you went ahead and did that. Now, you know, you ain't dumb, but that was dumb. You know, so, so I tap into that. And then I tap into, like, my Uncle Buster. And he always talked like this, like his tongue was heavy.
That right.
And I'd be like, so you tap into those things, and it allows you just imitate people.
Right.
And you do it in your way. And here's the thing. People think that they have to be like Nancy Cartwright, who plays Bart Simpson. She also plays Lisa. And I'm not sure she plays the mother, too. But Nancy plays, like, several characters on that show. In shows, they will often ask you, hey, can you do several of these voices?
Right.
And you just tap into things that happen, and you do little quirky things with your voice. My daughter played two people. She's 9, and she played two people in an allergy commercial. She played the little girl who was being teased because she wanted to sit at the table with people, and they were eating peanuts. And she also played the little girl's best friend.
Well, good for you that you have her starting now. If she has an interest and that's the way she wants to go, that you're giving her the opportunity. In terms of like a network, like you just said, the young lady that plays Bart and Lisa and all that, is there like a network? Because I know Rolanda does voiceovers as well. I remember Rolanda when she was here in New York doing the news. And she's moved out and done a lot of different things as well as voiceover. So is there like a network of you all, and kind of in terms of like African-American voiceover folks versus, the other folks, is it a large market, or is there a pretty good percentage of African-Americans in this field?
There are African-Americans in this field. And right now, I would say people are, quote unquote, more woke. Just to use a current colloquialism,
right?
They are more aware of the fact that they want authenticity. So we all know that on several of the big shows that we like, I won't get into that, but
correct,
several of the characters who play African Americans were white people,
right?
And so now you'll get scripts where they will specifically say, we want authenticity. So if you're not authentic, please don't audition.
Okay.
And they will say now. So what I'm saying is there are a lot more that are looking for the authentic, real black girl magic, black guy magic. They want that. And they want the resonance and the tone. Because, we have a different, sometimes. It just depends. I say this. There's a top for every pot. And
right,
there's a voice for every spot. And that is the truth. Because, you just might not. You might feel like you can't do it, but there's a ton of us out there, but we're kind of peppered around.
Right.
If you go to a big conference, you're not going to see a whole bunch of us in there, but there's going to be maybe like, it's only a small percentage. It's very small numbers still, comparatively speaking, very small numbers, but the network is close. So you get a chance to meet people pretty quickly if you go out to the conferences and okay, I met her, I met him, I met her, and then you network well. And some of the people are very, very friendly and open to share. So, like, One Voice conference is coming up. One Voice conference is a really big conference. It's really tailored more for people who are beginning and getting
right
out there. But it's a really great conference. If you go, you're going to connect. You're going to meet people. I tell people if they want to start and they're interested, that's what I help people with. I help people with understanding the industry and where to go, just like the basic stuff. Like, okay, well, where do I go to find stuff? These questions that you're asking me are perfect, because if someone was to ask me, are you a VO coach? I'm not a coach, but I will mentor you and help you understand the industry so you can get in. I will do that for you. And that is what I will do to help people. So if anybody wants to reach me, they can reach me at yolandavo.com or yolanda@yolandavo.com. And I am very accessible. On my website, you can actually go to my Connect page and just connect to me. It comes directly to me. I have free tips that I share with people as well, just to help you understand the industry. Where do I begin? That kind of thing. And the number one thing I would tell people, take a local class.
Right.
And it sounds crazy that I would say that. You're in New York, so you have Edge Studio near you. Edge Studio will offer some really great classes where you can start, and they're really helpful. Nice people, really helpful, and will expose you to a lot, and they even have a nice roster. And they're very affordable. So I say that because they're going to have recording. They're going to have buyers who actually are looking for certain voices. And they can say, I worked with Marc. Marc would fit this perfectly. And they'll call you and they'll say, hey, Marc, I thought you would fit this perfectly. And my friend who's a voice buyer, and he wants to hear this sound. And I told him he should connect with you. And they'll give you a script. And often you'll get those jobs.
Wow.
So
Well, then you're definitely the person I need to be talking to then. If I have any inkling of thinking about going that direction, you're the person I need to talk to.
Definitely. So, I mean, I am definitely available at YolandaVO.com. It's really easy. YolandaVO, like in voiceover.com.
Absolutely. So now, listening audience, I hope you've been with me since 6, but definitely if you didn't join me at 6, by all means, I hope you've been with me since 7, because my guest is Yolanda Spearman. And we're talking about right now her role as a voiceover artist. But we're going to transition in terms of her book that she's written, Relentless Execution. I got a couple more questions about the VO, and then we're going to move over to the author side of her. But do you find that people, because I mean, we watch commercials, we don't give it another thought. It's like my background is in marketing. My undergrad degree is in marketing, and then I have a master's in communications and a master's in education. And I remember because the reason that the light bulb went off when I saw AT&T in your bio is because I worked for them for 15 years, and I was in their marketing department.
Okay.
And I remember working with the various ad agencies in New York. I remember writing telemarketing scripts and the scripts for our operators, so forth and so on. So that whole process that you're talking about, I've been in meetings whenever the advertising company was presenting storyboards. So I've been in there. But and the other thing is, again, prior to working in marketing and at AT&T, if I got a piece of junk mail, it was just junk mail. It wasn't until I started creating the quote unquote junk mail that I realized everything that went into it in terms of all the codes that was on there, fulfillment houses, yada, yada, yada. Where I'm going with this is when someone now looks at a commercial, they're not necessarily thinking about all the piece parts. Do you ever run into somebody that when you say I do voiceover, they're looking at you like, what's that?
Oh, all the time. Most people don't know what it is. So most people I run into have no clue about the industry at all. And I will say this. I tell people this. The industry is deep and wide. It's like going into an ocean of stuff. You have to learn new language. You have to learn the specific words and verbiage and how you work with a producer, how you work with the writer. I mean, remember, a writer, this is their baby. And sometimes, y'all, they can't write real well. So you can make the baby pretty if it's ugly. And you'll get there, and they will have the script in front of you, and they'll be like, okay, well, and you'll be like, there's some words missing out of this sentence. But you have to, your job is to read what's on that page.
Right.
Now, sometimes what's on that page, so and they literally are reading it with you while you're reading it. So you'll read. So sometimes I have gotten in there. As a matter of fact, I just did this last week, and the sentence didn't make sense. So I read it, but I made it make sense. But they're reading it with me. Now, mind you, I'm on a directed session, so they're looking at me in my face. And I read it just as boldly. You got to be bold and confident. If you know it's wrong, you need to read it right, because it's going to come out. If it says, if it's supposed to be she, and they wrote, and they made a mistake and put a T on it, and it says the, which happens, you're not going to say in the middle of, and it's supposed to say, and she went to the moon. You're not going to say, and the went to the moon. You're going to say, you're going to fix it. So I fixed it. And he was like, oh, I had some bad writing. Oh, that was another mistake. Oh, I was missing an A. Because they missed those little articles, those little small words.
Right.
And your mind will help you, because when you're reading, your mind is going to say, is not right.
Correct.
So anyway, I digress. But the point is, I wanted to say this too. There are so many opportunities, because the one thing I have noticed, you said something to me that was so key. You said I was in the room where I wrote the script. I can tell you, out of all the things I've ever done, I think I've only worked with 2 African Americans who ever wrote. And I've done hundreds and hundreds of scripts. And I've only worked with two.
Wow.
On the end who actually wrote the script. One was for a vitamin, and the other one was just not that long ago. But out of everybody else, and even the show that I'm working on with Spotify, the top guy is an African American, the president, the vice president of marketing. He's an African American gentleman. But the reality is, everyone, there were 8 people on the call. They were all non-African American.
Right.
But they were trying to tap into our culture. And so I would say, there is such an opportunity for writers and people in communications. If you can't get in there, don't be afraid, because they're there.
Right.
And those jobs are out there, and they're hardly, I will tell you, I did a spot yesterday. I did one. I did like 4 spots this week. I had 2 directed sessions. There were no African Americans in anything I did this week. And all of them wanted a black voice.
Well, I tell you what, keep my name somewhere handy. It's Marc with a C, M-A-R-C, last name Medley, M-E-D-L-E-Y. But keep that somewhere handy. But I tell you, we are going to transition now, because Yolanda not only does voiceover and working for Harley Davidson, she has written a book. And the book is Relentless. And her conversation that we've had to this point, you're going to see connects to why she would have written this book. Relentless Execution by Yolanda Spearman. Today, more than 2/3 of the working population feel disengaged at work. While a study in an issue of the Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin indicates that about 90% of the adult population lives with regrets. No person is born with regrets. Many die with them. The day we allow ourselves to stop dreaming is the day we begin to live with our very first regret. I know that's right. Relentless Execution is about accomplishing your dreams. This book gives you a foundation to help you understand how you can set up internal systems that will allow you to finish more of what you start. This is a lighthearted, fun read. It is relatable and will bring a smile to your face and a pen to your hand. Yolanda poses thought-provoking questions throughout the book to keep you engaged and to encourage you to act. You heard her talking earlier about the lady at the hotel. Not only did she tell her she looked like or felt as if she would do well in voiceover, she acted. So that's why she says engage and to encourage you to act. Many self-help books offer traditional plans to successful living. Relentless Execution uses testimonials to peel back the emotional layers that may be holding you back from achieving optimal results. Relentless Execution pushes you to do what makes you happy. You heard her talking about that a minute ago, about finding your passion. Find your focus. Follow through on your goals and aspirations. Yolanda makes it easy and fun to connect the dots to find your personal path to success, however that may look for you. So talk to me a little about, okay, where did the idea come from you wanted to do a book?
You know, this idea is, I think this is my baby. You know how everybody says you birth a baby?
That's right.
You have a dream. This one right here was my baby. And it came from working with dealers in corporate America. I really enjoy helping out my dealers at Harley Davidson. And I really enjoyed listening to their journeys and to listening to their dreams and their passions. And I remember I was talking to one of my owners, and he really enjoyed flying airplanes. So crazy, right? Totally
not at all, because I do too.
Right? That is too funny. But he was telling me about how he likes flying planes and how he enjoys this and how he wants to do that and how he just bought a new propeller plane and he bought this other plane with these special engines and da-da-da. And his whole conversation to me was about airplanes. I'm sitting in his Harley Davidson dealership, but he's talking to me about airplanes.
Yeah, we AV geeks are like that.
So I'm just like, okay. And I asked him, I said, so how does this play into your overall passion? And he was like, well, Yolanda, this funds my ability to buy my airplanes and to do all these things that I
Wow.
And so he was like, and I was like, so how can I help? So my optimal goal in my day job is, how can I help you achieve your dream even more? And he was like, Yolanda, really what I want are some ideas and some processes that can help me improve my business so I can maximize my income. That's the business corporate response, right? So cool. I give you this. We work. I get there. I'm working with the team. I do training. I sit down. We write out some processes. We make some goals. Nothing happens. 3 months. I'm following up. Nothing. 6 months. Nothing. Here's the key. And I started thinking to myself, if only my stores could execute on the things that they know they need to do. If they could execute, they could have more of the time, the money, the resources, even the availability to do what they dream. That same person today is still in that same place. Unfortunately, they didn't grow the way they wanted to yet, because I'm still have faith for them, but I don't work with them now. But the reality is, all of us, if we can find our passion, if you find your passion is going to lead you to your purpose. That right there came from T.D. Jakes. That's
correct.
How he says it. But the truth is, that is a truthful statement. And once you find your passion, it will lead you right into your purpose. And once it leads you into your purpose, guess what's coming next? Profit. And people don't get it. So people don't understand your passion leads you into your purpose, and that actually yields out profit. So that's what the book is. And I was on an airplane when I got the vision for the book. And I write like that. I'm an inspired person. So if I get inspired to do something, I believe that God speaks to you in ways that I was looking in the clouds. And I was there. And all of a sudden, words started coming. And I was like, they need to execute. They need to execute. And I started writing about people who don't execute because they aren't doing what makes them happy. And they haven't found their focus. And they don't realize, sometimes you're going to have distractions. You're going to have to pick up some poop. Things are going to happen that you hate. Wash your hands and keep going.
Wash your hands and keep going. I know that's right. So in terms of the title of the book, I think I kind of know the answer to this as well. But what was it about relentless execution that struck you?
The word relentless means that you're resilient. You don't easily give up when it's your dream. So sometimes we have dreams that are far-fetched. For instance, doing voiceovers. So I talk a lot about the ones that I got, but I didn't tell you the journey. So you see the butterfly, but we don't talk about the journey that the butterfly goes through to go from being a caterpillar to becoming a butterfly, right? So the journey to get here to where I have an ad on Wayfair and I have all these experiences means that I sat down here and I did a lot of auditions. I got told no probably 50, 60 times before I heard yes.
Right.
Now I hear yes more often, but I got told no. And I teach this. Rejection is not refusal. I just had a company recently that told me no a ton of times. But you know what? I wanted to do a voiceover for them. And I kept auditioning. And you know how a song says, I kept on singing and I kept on coming. Work it out. I kept on singing and I kept on coming. And guess what? They just recently, 2 weeks ago, they hired me. That company that told me no about 22 times, to be exact. Not that I was They told me no, and I was like, I don't care if y'all told me no. I'm going to fit one of these spots because there's a top for every spot, and there is a voice for every spot. And one of these are going to be me. But that is what relentless is. You're going to keep on knocking on doors till somebody opens it.
Now, see, it's interesting that piece you had that you opened up the description of the book about so many people being unhappy with their jobs. What is it or why is it, do you think, that they don't execute or make the moves to change that? And this is a rhetorical for me. I get it because folks don't like change. And, they would, I know the devil that I have versus the one that I could get. So what are your thoughts in terms of that?
So often people think that they have to quit. People are looking at the fact, okay, so if we're talking real world, we got bills to pay. We got rent, lights, kids. Your baby need new shoes. I get it. And sometimes we have to do the jobs that we're in because of just the nature of the beast. This is reality. And this girl that's on here, who has the time to do 50, 60 auditions before I get my first job? That's a real key point. But let's put a comma on that. Because I look at my husband. I'm going to talk about him for a minute because he's in the book, the first chapter of the book, Relentless Execution. He is in that. And I talk about him. He is a heavy repair mechanic for the city of Detroit. And every single day, he told me, it's like Groundhog's Day, Yolanda. I go in, I fix engines, I fix transmissions, I fix brakes. And he's like, I could do it with my eyes closed. And I was like, throw up. That is the absolute worst. I would hate that. And he was like, no, hold on. Let me explain to you why it's not so bad. Now, this is where I started learning. I got all the degrees and certificates, but I learned something from him this day. He said, because I can do it with my eyes closed, my bosses love it. I come in, I get my work done, and I like to fix it right the first time. So I have time in my day, in my brain, to work on my race car. He has a race car. He's a drag stripper. He's a drag racer. Right now, he's at the track now, getting prepared to go and race.
Wow.
He built his car. He built his engine. And he didn't just build any car. It has a supercharger on it. It's a 79 Malibu. It's in my book. You can see pictures of it. He goes down the track he just told me today, he hit 140 miles in a quarter mile.
Wow.
Oh, no, not in a quarter mile. He did the eighth mile today. So his was the eighth mile. So it was half of a quarter. So imagine going 140 miles an hour in an eighth of a mile. Now, he told me all those things, and this is my point. My point is this. His day job may not be so much fun, but because he can compartmentalize it, he can tap into that place of flow when he's at his day job because he has a passion when he comes home. I have seen him come home in his work clothes and climb up underneath that race car in the garage, and when it's 2 degrees outside. And he was like, but I just was thinking about this when I was at work, and I think if I move this around. See, people don't get it. When you find your passion, it's going to make a place for you. You're going to have a place for it. But it's also going to make your day job better. And then, over time, it can become profits. Let me talk about that for 2 seconds, can I?
By all means.
I'm going to tell you. Thank you. So, this is how it becomes profitable. My husband built his engine. It has a supercharger on it. If you don't know a lot about engines, I won't bore you, but he bores me, so I get to spew out the stuff that he tells me all the time. So, he learned how to do it. He put it all together by himself. He did all the research. I was on the phone like, who are you talking to? I'm talking to Holly. Who is Holly? Holly is the company that makes the part that I got on my car. I'm like, what? He was like, yeah. I asked him, could I talk to the people who created this because I need to understand why this connects to this. This is a man without a degree. So I said, whoa, guess what? People started to notice his passion. They started to notice how good he is. And people started calling him up. Can you help me with my engine? How much would you charge me if you put my engine together? How much would you charge me? Can you come over and do the diagram on this? Can you bring the computer to help me with my trans brake? I need this and this braking at this. And how much should I dial? He just told me I had to dial back my shocks I had to pump up my shocks 2 clicks. I don't know what that means. But guess what? He's at the track. People are coming up to him. Hey, can you come over here? He crashed about a couple months last year. When he crashed his car, the community got his car put back together. The race sent him money. He got money from somebody on TV called, like the people who do, I think it's called shootouts or something like that. They actually sent him $500 because they were like, oh, no, your car needs to be back on the track. That's what happens when you find your purpose and you lead in your place of passion. Now, he still got a regular day job.
Right.
He'll go to the city of Detroit. But guess what? His passion has allowed him to enjoy his day job better.
I know that's right.
Clubhouse, I am complete.
So, in terms of now, because writing a book is another process, if you will. How did you find it? And you said you were inspired as a writer. So, like the whole process of putting a book together, getting it published, and so forth and so on. What was that like for you?
It was really. So I will tell you this, you need a community. I talk about having a community in my book, Relentless Execution, in the I can't remember what chapter it is. I think it's chapter number, I can't remember the chapter right at the second. I think it's chapter number 8. Yeah, that's what it is. It talks about having a support group, that people that will support you, because you're going to have a whole bunch of friends and family that say yay and nay. I'm going to tell you the process is not hard. The process is actually easy. The hardest part of the process is pursuing excellence in the process. This is why everything you have to be relentless. So I remember I wrote all of this down. I was so happy. I was jumping up and down. I read the book to my girlfriends on a trip. We went on a trip. I read the book to them, the first 4 chapters. And they were like, okay, this is good. We need to fix these sentences. We need to fix that. We need to fix this grammatically is incorrect. It's not coming out the way you wanted it to. So they just like put red marks all over my paper. And you were a teacher. So you understand how that
That's right.
Like, womp, womp. So I was just like, okay. And then I was ready to publish. And one of my girlfriends from that time, I said, I hired an editor. I hired an editor twice. And then I had her read it. She read it, and she said, this isn't it. She said, you said you wanted excellence. I'm going to tell you before you push the publish button, can you please delay that for about another week because we need to fix it. I was so mad. So I will tell you, the process is not hard. The process is easy. It's whether or not you choose to pursue excellence, because editing your script, making sure it flows right. And in the writing space, just like in the voiceover space, it's a whole ocean of stuff that you can learn. I did hire. I used Reedsy, REEDSY.com to find an editor.
Right.
I used Reedsy to help me organize the inside of my book. I did not do the layout myself. I used bookcoverzone.com to buy a book cover that I felt fit my book.
Right.
And what I did there, they actually will discontinue it. So there are people who design them, and they discontinue it so no one else can have the same cover.
Okay.
So I used outside resources, and then I published through Amazon. And Amazon has a step-by-step
Absolutely.
process,
You're right.
and they'll tell you exactly what to do.
So you are self-published, and so and it's interesting that you were saying that the whole notion of excellence, because I remember back in the day when self-publishing first came out, we had like the vanity press, we had the print on demands, and a lot of times you would get folks that were just straight up careless, and they published really crap that kind of gave self-publishing a black eye. So you're absolutely right. If you're self-publishing, you still want to be as professional as if you had gone to a publishing house.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. 100%. I want people to look at my book and not ever know that it was self-published. I have people ask me all the time, who was your publisher? And I always chuckle. I go, he, because it was me.
That's right. And see, again, and that's exactly the way it ought to be. This is a non-commercial station that we're on, but I tell folks all the time, when I walk into this studio, I make my show as professional as if it were on a commercial station. And that should be the goal. That, just because it's non-commercial doesn't mean you should be junk. And the same way, just because you're self-publishing does not mean you should be junk. That notion of striving for excellence has to be there, regardless, pretty much for whatever you do. And that's why I was glad to see that, because I am the same. Well, like, look, if we're going to do this thing, let's do it right. Mm-hmm. And so, because you really don't, because the other thing is, your name is on that byline.
That's right.
I mean, it's a matter of fact, on your book, it's top. Yolanda Spearman at the top of the book. A lot of time in the books it'll be in the middle or at the bottom, but on Yolanda's book, it is at the very top of the book. You can't miss it. Yolanda Spearman. So you don't want to put that out and have a bunch of errors in there.
No, you don't. And I'm going to tell people this too. So even though you edited like 1,000,000 times, when you go back through, so I also did the voiceover for my book. I have the voiceover version of my book will be coming out soon. So I did the voiceover. That, reading your book aloud, and I'm sure you probably teach this in communications. Whenever you read something aloud, you find errors that you
That's right.
You just did not know existed. And when I read my book aloud, that's why I ended up hiring 2 editors, because when I read it aloud, I was like, oh, this doesn't go. Oh, I left off a piece of the sentence here.
No, absolutely.
Does some magic.
I'm to the point now where I have to do that with text messages and email messages, because on these phones with these spell corrects and spell checks, and they'll do their own thing. They'll put in words for you that you didn't put. So it's like I have hit send and said, that's not what I wrote. But so that's why I've gotten to the point now where even on a text message, I'm reading it 2 or 3 times before it goes.
Yes, and yes. I mean, really, yes. And if people ever want to know, hey, can I write? Read your writing out loud. Read it to someone else. Especially a person who is really not into reading. The people who are not into reading prefer to hear something that flows well. And when it doesn't, they'll be like, something's not right with that. I read mine to my husband, and I read it while he was working on his car, of course, in the garage. I sat out there, and I was like, okay, I'm going to read to you. And I read it to him, And every chapter I came in, he would tell me, "Oh, he's like, I love Amy's chapter. Sometimes you got to pick up. Ooh, that was a good one. He was like, I got lost in this chapter, but I like this one. Oh, that story about your father, never give up. I didn't know that. So you get to learn, okay, the way I crafted that testimonial was better. I should work on this. And I will suggest to anyone, all of us are writers, right? I think that everyone can write. Whether or not that's going to be your inspired place, because I want to talk about the time commitment.
Right.
I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning on many days because I needed complete, utter silence.
Absolutely.
I could hear my thoughts. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't always love that. So look, that 5 a.m. club book that's out, y'all, I don't know if I'm going to be a member of that club. I'm just going to tell the truth, okay? But I will say, when I was in the zone working on that project, I was so motivated. I got up. My husband had my coffee pre-made, so all I had to do was push the little microwave button 2 times, and it would warm up my coffee.
Right.
I warmed up my coffee. I would sit down. I would be so in the zone. I have gotten up at 4. Everybody woke up, took their showers, and come down at 9 and been like, "Mom, it's time for breakfast." And I'll be like, "Oh, okay. Let me see. Okay." And then I have to come, and you have to literally pull yourself out of another place.
No, that's absolutely right. So again, listening audience, and we've coming down to the conclusion, and the hours has gone as fast as it always does. But my guest this morning was Yolanda Spearman, and she's a voiceover artist as well as a corporate executive as well as an author. And her book is Relentless Execution. And so this is what I do, Yolanda, as we come to the end of the interview. What I do is I shut the mic off and give you the opportunity to promote. Now, I know you said your website earlier, but I'm going to give you a chance to promote. And you can say anything with the exception of the dollar amount. Because at that point, when folks get in touch with you, they can work that out, whatever that is with you. We just don't do that on the air. But any shout outs, anything else you want to say about the book, telephone numbers, email addresses, websites, anything you want the listening audience to know in terms of how to get in touch with you, I'm going to shut the mic off and allow you to do that. I just have one question, which since you published it through Amazon, my guess is it is there. Is it on Kindle?
It is. It's on
good.
Kindle. It's on Amazon as well, and it will be coming soon to Audible.
All right now. So I tell you what, before the day is out, I will have downloaded Relentless Execution on my iPad, on my Kindle.
Yay, please do. Please do. And I want to hear from you.
Yeah. I already told you I want to break into VO, so you'll be hearing from me, but I don't know when it's going to be. I'm going to execute on that at some point. I'm going to have to put a stake in the ground and say, you know what? I'm going to call Yolanda and see if I can get this thing executed, get it started.
Yes, that is exactly what turns a dream into a goal, right? So a dream is I have a quote on that in the book.
All right now.
It has a deadline. You got to have a deadline.
Right. That's absolutely right. You can't just throw it out there and say someday. You got to really kind of put a pin in it. And so that's what I'm going to do in terms of, at this point, I am going to turn off my microphone. You get a chance to promote your backside off, with the exception of a dollar amount.
Perfect.
All right.
Good.
So there you go.
All right, here we go. So everybody, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I really encourage you, if you're stuck, if you feel like, hey, I got passions, I have ideas, I have things that I really want to do, but I'm having a challenge putting a plan together, getting it all organized, and getting it out there, I would suggest to you that you go to Amazon, download the book, purchase the book, get the book. It's Relentless Execution. It's available on Amazon. Or if you look up my name, Yolanda Spearman, online, if you just type in Yolanda Spearman, you'll also find my website. My website is Yolanda, YOLANDA, that's VO.com. Super simple, YolandaVO.com. You can find the book. You can connect to me. Oh, you can even hear my commercials. So if you wanted to hear some of the commercials on Wayfair and some of the things that I have done, you can actually hear it. You can hear it. You can even see them, and you can see the companies I've worked with. But more than that, you can connect with me. And I would love to help mentor you and help you learn more, find out more about this industry. I also have free tips. So if you send me an email when you connect with me, I will send you back some free tips. So you got to send me an email. I'll send you some free tips to help you just get introduced to the industry. And if you want to schedule some time with me, reach out to me, Yolanda at YolandaVO.com. And if you say, hey, I'm not ready for all that, but I do want to understand a little bit about how to pursue my passion, how to lead with my passion, then purchase the book, Relentless Execution by Yolanda Spearman. Thank you all so much for listening. And I am praying that you achieve your dream and that you live a life without regrets. Thank you so much, Marc, for giving me an opportunity to share Relentless Execution with the world and YolandaVO.com with the world. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for rising early with me, even though we're both in the same time zone. She is calling out of Detroit, Michigan, and I love the energy. I mean, I could feel the energy over the airwaves, and I'm sure the listening audience could feel it as well. And again, for listening audience, you heard her website is Yolanda VO. Now, VO is short for voiceover. Okay, so if you need that to help you remember, the V is for voice, the O is for over. Yolanda is YOLANDA. I know some spell Yolanda YOLO, but she spells it YOLANDA, Spearman, just like it sounds, SPEARMAN. She's the author. Her website is YolandaVO.com. And again, Pam Perry has once again come through with a top-notch guest. So Yolanda, my guests always have the opportunity, an open invitation to come back on the show. If you do some more work or some different work and you want to come back on, it's just a matter of scheduling a date.
Perfect. So my next book will be coming out, so I'll have a actual guide.
All right now.
People out, so I'll have that come out. And if they want to just follow me on Instagram at Yolanda Spearman, it's super easy. You can find me anywhere just with my name, Yolanda Spearman. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, all those, LinkedIn. I will actually have some clips of my next one coming out on Instagram. I'll be sharing some little pieces about it and some pieces from it. So if you want to just follow me, then you can find out more, and it'll actually be a little bit of my guide to Relentless Execution.
All right. Well, I record these and I put them up on my YouTube channel. They'll be archived there for those who chose not to join us early this morning. They can always go back on my YouTube channel and they are archived there. I will be sending you the links. I'll send you the link to the YouTube channel and I'll send you the MP3 link, and you can feel free to share them or post them on your website or whatever you want to do with them, because once I send them to you, they're yours.
Thank you so much. I totally appreciate that. That is really gracious. So thank you. And when you reach out to me, I'm going to make sure we help you get everything you need when you call me the first time. So you're up and running after that first phone call.
All right. Well, again, I appreciate you. Love the interview. Love the energy. Had a blast talking to you this morning. And we will be in touch. As I said, I will get those links over to you via email or either through Pam. One way or the other, you're going to get the links. And again, they're yours. Once you get them, do what you want. Okay?
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. You do the same. Take care now.
Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.
All right. Well, that is another episode of The Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley. My guest this morning was Yolanda Spearman, and her book is Relentless Execution.